All right, guys. I know it's been quite some time since I've last done one of these kind of VOD reviews, but we're going to be jumping into a Breeze VOD review and kind of just seeing how currently teams are playing. These are two of, I'd say, the best two teams that are in the Tier 2 scene for North America. Renegades obviously have been at the top of the game as of recent. If you guys don't know, they've won so many consecutive Nerd Street Gamer Summer Championships. They are potential contenders to play against Sentinels in the upcoming VCT, and I might have a later video about that as I'm really starting to churn out the content this summer. Virtuoso, on the other hand, you might not know them too well, but they are a very, very skilled team led by Anders TV. He himself is another content creator / analyst. Very, very smart guy. So if you haven't watched his video on Breeze, the link will be down in the description, or I guess there'll be an eye right above where I am right now. So yeah, make sure you go watch out that video. He breaks down some of the compositional metas that he's seeing off of the very small sample size that he has across the globe. But I'm going to be doing a little bit more of a concrete kind of dissection, especially between these two teams. We'll be taking a look at a couple of rounds in specific. I'll record the whole VOD review, and I'll be sure to again cut out the best parts. But let's break down the combos. So right off the bat, we see the use of both Vipers, Randy Savage, and also Eli. Apologies again if I butcher that name. So if you have watched any Breeze games at all, I think you might know that Viper is kind of one of the most used agents on this map. It's just really good for covering a lot of open map, or a lot of the space that this very open map provides. And we're going to see that a lot in this game from the Renegades defensive side, and when it comes to the executions from the Virtuoso side. Another kind of key characteristic that it looks like Virtuoso have gone for is the use of an Astra. Now, I would assume that this is used kind of to take a lot of space when it comes to map control, right? Using that Viper wall to execute on the sites, using the Astra stars and Nebulas to get map control, right? Especially down towards mid, we can drop that in the top nest, drop it towards the double doors in mid side, or just use it for fakes as well. Those have always been two kind of key defining characteristics when it comes to having an agent composition with double controller, is that you're able to take map control, and you're also able to set up a lot of fakes. Both teams have been running Jet. I believe in Anders' video, she has an 86% pick rate when it comes to composition. She's most of the time going to be pick. Viper obviously being the majority of that. Moving down the line, the other two key characteristics are Virtuoso's decided to use a KJ, and they've also gone for a Sova. On the other side, it's double duelist instead of single duelist, and then instead of a Sova, they've gone for Sky, which is, I would say, a preference as to if you want to run double initiator or if you want to run double controller. In this instance, Renegades have decided to substitute out that Sentinel for instead a double initiator, and I honestly like this kind of pick. I think Sova is again one of those agents that you have to use on this map because of how open the map can be and how revealing his recon bolt can be, and also how useful using a Trailblazer can be. And we're going to see that again from the Renegade side, and how Roy decides to use his Trailblazer to gain a lot of early map control, especially on that B side and especially on the defensive side. And then later on, we're going to see how that Sova util kind of just opens up the map and works the site. Whereas Iconic, though, on the KJ, it was always a very peculiar pick, because I've always felt as though entering into sites is always a little bit odd, a little bit janky, but you'll see some of the utility that he throws down, and it is pretty unique. All right, so jumping right off the bat, we're going to be heading into the first round. There is one thing in particular that I really want to point out after we went over that composition for Breeze, is how Randy Savage is going to throw down this Viper wall. So what we can see from the map already is that he's throwing a wall that goes across the front portion of a cave, or the entrance to the A site, and then a wall that kind of creeps into the hall area, and then another portion of the wall that ends up between like this pillar area and the, as I like to call it, Among Us event. So this wall is really cool because what it does is obviously it provides a little bit of protection towards this portion of the map, right? You don't really need to put too much emphasis here from your Sova. Just send a recon bolt, throw your wall up whenever you feel contact or pressure towards a cave, and it'll effectively have pressure control towards a hold. But what I'm more concerned about mainly is this portion of the wall and what this does itself. So I really like this wall because what it does is that it forces an attacking team to kind of maneuver around it. So if you're an attacking team, typically from what I've seen is that if you want to try and maneuver into mid here and maybe make a mid split, you're going to have to try and work in, get this door controlled to ensure that you're not going to be crossfired from nest and door, so you need to like isolate this main fight, and you also need to isolate the top mid portion. So this wall forces the attacking team to either step through the wall completely blind, lose 30 HP, possible decay, and have the chance of getting cross-ride from doors and top mid, or even the tunnels here as well. Or it forces the attacking team, if they don't want to take that first step, the alternative route is try and work your way around mid, where again you have the opportunity to be cross-fired from this position and this position. So it's just a really cool use of a wall, and it has a lot of implications, and it's interesting because of how it's just one piece utility that effectively kind of disrupts the entire mid take from an attacking side. So kind of speeding further along, I really want to take a lot of emphasis on the Viper wall because of how instrumental it feels she is on this map. And so Renegades lost the last round. This is going to be an eco round or a force in this instance from them. And what Randy Savage has done, instead of throwing the wall that goes normally across here, he's decided to throw one that is going to be parallel to the cave. So what he's trying to essentially do, and we'll see here in a second, is just make it really difficult for any players here to swing, right? So there's like a little gap in this area right now, but if you are a player, you're going to have to swing through the Viper wall. And in this instance, the reasoning for the wall is because he knows that most of these players are going to be wearing light armor. Randy Savage is going to be playing with a Marshal. So you go from 125 instantly to 90. That's a one-shot body shot from any Marshal. So it's a nice way to use the Viper wall and a really good understanding of what teams are going to be buying in this second round. And the gun that he has is made specifically for this kind of engagement. And we'll see this here in a second. So if we, I think, fast forward a couple of seconds, I want to say. No, okay, maybe a little bit backwards. You'll see the execution come in from Virtuoso where they throw that wall up. Randy Savage, who has this wall, knows that a lot of damage is going to be inflicted, and so what he immediately does as a reaction is, okay, he feels this pressure, he hears the owl drone, he tosses out the first snake bite, which will not only delay the push and allow for these rotations to come back, it allows Roy to get even more ground forward, where they can kind of contest and congest the players back in towards cave. He'll even throw the poison orb out, so this is a really good example of using Viper to delay, kind of force your opponents back into a corner, and you can see here a good example. He's able to combo the util with the shock dart. So a really strong hold coming out from Randy Savage, and like I said earlier, I think it's just a really small example of how you can use Viper util to slow down a push. It looks like right now Renegades aren't going to win, but if we put this at double the speed real quick, you'll see how it kind of starts to fall apart here, at least for Virtuoso. First pick goes into halls, Iconic is kind of stuck, and it's all really because Randy Savage uses util to delay, really kind of bottleneck these players, allowed Roy to get a lot of space down towards B main, and ultimately they're able to close out the round. So again, we're skipping just a little bit forward. This is another really cool example of how they're using this Viper wall that we see again towards mid to control the map. So here's what we'll see really early on is Roy is going to get a lot of control down towards mid. He's kind of watching in case anyone steps out because there's a smoke here at the moment, just ensuring that Winsome's not going to get a run up on. At the same time, Roy is going to create pressure into kind of this B elbow position, try and get some information. And the main reasoning for that is a recon bolt in the back of cave here, since there's no pressure in this area, since there's no pressure in hall. You also have Jerk kind of watching this angle as well. Randy Savage just checked towards A main. You saw nothing down towards mid, and now that Winsome's peeking out, you can confirm. So Roy's now diverted his attention back, and it comes down mainly to Retro in the back site. And you'll see here how Roy is very quick to instantly react and support his teammate. And this is kind of the effectivity now of Sky, especially on a map like this that is so open and you're so prone to getting flashed nowadays. Roy instantly responds with a bird. That's going to delay the push out here and kind of reroute the work or reroute the push back to this way where it's a lot harder to fight from, especially with just pistols. And struggled a little bit there, Retro, but you see how it forces players to go back around this way, and where players are able to walk out through spawn, players are able to walk out through the B connector, and able to effectively control the A site. Another very short example, but also a really cool way that Renegade's Roy kind of uses his Skybirds to control the B site. And I think we're going to see a lot more of this in competitive play, not just on Breeze, because of how fast you can pull out that bird and instantly pop a flash. So this is another cool example of kind of how Renegades, apologies, Roy, uses a Sky. We know him to be the father of Sky and the father of the pigeons, as I like to call it. This is how he's going to use his birds and his utility to get control but also delay his opponent. So if we rewind just a little bit, we'll see that he early uses this Trailblazer to get information to know that there are players here. And so what this does is that it gives Retro a pretty safe positioning. So we saw a recon bolt go out that landed right over here, which forced Retro away, and he didn't get any contact. No one pushed out mid simply because of this Viper wall, and it's very, again, difficult to make this contact. If you want to try and punish Retro off that angle, you possibly have to deal with a player here. So no one, it looks like, on Virtuoso was willing to take that risk, and so Roy, he drops a Trailblazer. This Trailblazer gives him the space and gives Retro the opportunity if he wants to fall back, or at least gives him the safety that he's not going to get pushed from B elbow. So that's a small sample of how Roy uses that utility, gets information, allows Retro to retreat, but also gets him a lot of B man control. And so we'll see how he plays around it here, and we'll fast forward just a little bit. As Owl Drone goes out, Roy makes a very smart decision of throwing a bird. And the main reason for this kind of early reaction is because typically, as soon as an Owl Drone goes in, you expect a follow-up, and that follow-up could either be a jet dash or it could just be a full-on push. Maybe a run it back is used if Virtuoso decided to run a Phoenix. So Roy instantly flashes, knowing that there could be players in this zone, and he needs to delay. It also has a side effect of blinding the Owl Drone, which maybe prohibits its vision, prohibits its sight. We just saw that it blinded the jet going in. So a lot of uses for when Roy throws out that very, very early bird. He's able to control the sight, delay, and allow his team to make rotations. It's a very, very effective hold, and he only used a total of two pieces of utility. That second bird that comes out is used for his teammates to swing on it as well. So again, very effective hold using very minimal utility coming out from Roy, and it shows how a very small kit can really go a long way when it comes to holding on a site. And it also shows how you can use Sky now as a very, very good defensive agent. So one reason I really like the Renegades composition is that they're able to really use utility to maneuver around the map and get map control and pull and understand rotations. And I think this round is a really good example of how they're able to do that. So what we're going to see early on is, again, kind of the basic setup. We've always seen Jerk kind of in this hallway, tossing a recon bolt. The wall is going to be the same going across towards mid. Retro playing this mid side towards B tunnel or B connector, able to rotate in and help Roy if need be. So this is a a perfect example of using two initiators to get information. So what we're going to see early on is Roy is going to use a Trailblazer out. And what he's going to find is that there is no one in B main, right? He's able to get all this depth without the Trailblazer being punished. And so what his comment is probably so far no into the A side. And there's this really cool intricate play setup that I don't know if you caught because you were focused on the minimap. But a Poison Orb goes out, and Winsome flashes through, knowing that if we rewind back a little bit, Sniper is only one off of his ultimate. So knowing that Sniper is only one off his ultimate, that being the Silver ultimate, they know that it's going to be a super close and contested battle for this A main orb, and they are perfectly aware of that, and they're ready to take this swing, which they do. They hear Sniper tap that orb, they get that kill. They are not going to be punished here, thankfully, for the Renegade side. It's a little bit of a slow reaction, I say, from Virtuoso, but all of that map control and able to easily fall away to the safety of that wall, knowing that now that they've diverted attention elsewhere, knowing that this is under their control, they didn't get resung here. They already know that Roy's pushed deep B main. They know Retro has worked their way down mid. The only other positioning now that Virtuoso could be in the mind of Renegades has to be over towards this side. So I think it's a really well thought out round from Renegades, and I thought it was just a small example of what can happen using map control and also taking map control. So Renegades, so far from what we've seen, it's been a lot about mid control, but this round in particular was a lot more than just mid. So I skipped forward just a little bit to let the rest around and kind of play out. So with that information that, of course, that players are kind of working up into halls, Jerk is just going to try and manage his control, ensure that he has this map control and that he kind of doesn't just let it slip away. So again, a really nice, well thought out round coming out from Renegades. I think it's a perfect example of how getting aggressive and getting map control, but also having kind of the precedent that mid is really not going to be winnable with Virtuoso really helps a lot for Renegades. So this round's a little bit more cutthroat, I'd say, from the Renegade side. It's all, again, a really good example of kind of fighting for control and utilizing the two key agents that have been so far in this matchup, and I like to accredit that to specifically the Viper and the Sky and how good they have been at controlling their respective sides of the map. So we've always seen Randy Savage be a pretty dominant force when it came to that A side, and Roy obviously being super good at delaying with those Sky flashes, delaying with the Trailblazer, and ensuring that his team has the information and that his team has time to rotate between either side, whichever one they feel is necessary. So it's a little bit of a different approach. So what we can notice already is these ultimates. Randy Savage has his Viper's ultimate. He can use that to kind of clog up this cave area, kind of just as effectively as if he maybe had a poison orb and just the wall there to use those snake bites, but he's just going to clog up A main. And then the other two, obviously Retro's knives and Winsome using the Phoenix ultimate. So from the looks of it, it looks like it's going to be a super aggressive take. I think the only interesting thing is, and maybe it's a little bit of a misdirection, is that with this wall, it kind of feels counterintuitive for a player to run through your own Viper wall. But keep in mind, Winsome is on a run it back. He also have curve balls to push through, and he has Retro right behind him to make a dash play with the knives if need be. All this is to assume that A main can be fully taken under control with this Viper's ultimate, and that B main is relatively clear. Roy gets a lot of information with that last jump catching Apoth kind of off guard. Winsome gets information. Retro looked for the push but didn't get enough info to take that push, and so ultimately the play isn't optimal, I'd say, for Renegades, but all in all, because they have that run it back, Winsome's able to retake this space and recollect control. All in the meantime, they have Jerk kind of watching in case anyone walks on this left side, and that Viper's pit being so claustrophobic in that cave area, making it super hard to work their way in. It's a variation from the Renegades when it came to their defensive side, but it's such a cool variation that works out tremendously well in this aspect. So anyways, I hope you guys maybe learned something new from this video. I know it was a little bit of a short one. I wanted to cover the second half, but I'll be completely honest, there wasn't really anything crazy new that I felt like Renegades maybe did differently. I give a lot of praise to Renegades. I think they're one of the best teams coming out of the Tier 2 scene in North America. They're a team that could face up against Sentinels in the round of 16 in this coming VCT Stage 3. So I'm super pumped to see what they bring against Tier 1 teams. They've always looked like a really good team in my eyes. They've been dominating the Tier 2 space lately with so many back-to-back victories in the Nursery Gamer Summer Champs qualifiers. So I'm pumped as hell to see what they bring to the table and maybe what kind of run they can make in Stage 3. But anyways, if you guys did learn something new, maybe you take something to your rank game, please do like and subscribe. It really goes a long way to show me that you guys enjoy these videos and that it gives you, you know, it gives me motivation to make more. I haven't made a video in a while because I haven't found too many topics interesting, but hopefully you guys saw this one as a little bit more interesting. I've got a lot more videos coming out on the way. Stay tuned for a VCT Stage 3 preview video possibly coming later this week. If not, I'll surely have a recap video for this recent open qualifiers when that does elapse on the 5th. Anyways, guys, thank you so much. Again, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Comment what you want to see next in another video, and perhaps maybe I've got something cooking for you. But anyways, see you soon.